Hello, I'm Mary Ann Dalton, and welcome to Active Aging, a program devoted to exploring issues of importance to older people and people living with disabilities. Each month, we provide information and resources to help you live a healthy, satisfying, and independent life. The Massachusetts Senior Action Council is a statewide, democratically run organization with over 1,500 members. The group is committed to empowering seniors. This month, we'll take you to a state Senate candidates forum run by the Cambridge chapter of the group. The May 21st meeting gave state Senate candidates an opportunity to air their views on a range of issues. Thanks to Active Aging correspondent Frank Wright for collecting the footage.
Our organization, Mass Senior Action, both the statewide and locally, strongly endorse a universal, single-payer healthcare program for the United States and for Massachusetts. And we would like to know, because it will cost less money and because it will give real coverage, which the new program, as you know, doesn't give it. It doesn't really cover everybody. It doesn't cover some of the poorest. It doesn't cover in particular the underinsured, which many seniors are underinsured. They have to make a decision. Am I going to spend money or am I not going to get the care my doctor thinks I need? So we have been working for single payer. More people at the national level are starting to think about it. If elected, how would you help us to get single payer in Massachusetts?
Thank you, Barbara. I would have one disagreement. I do think the healthcare reform law that was put into place is taking a great leap forward, more so than any other state in the country has done. We already have over 100,000 of the 500,000 people that were uninsured before that bill was signed into law that have health insurance today.
But not full health insurance. Thank you.
Well, what I would suggest is this. Health insurance should be something that everyone has access to, and I believe that's why the legislature took action the way they did a year ago. It would be wonderful to have universal coverage in the United States of America. And I know that in having served now for almost 8 years, part of the concern about moving one state into a single payer plan is that it doesn't seem like it's something that could be done without the rest of the country. And I think that is what the end of your remarks were appropriate. We need to advocate our Congress to move the United States into a plan where our country is covered with universal health coverage. I believe, however, though, that Massachusetts is being a great leader in this area, and there are going to be hundreds of thousands of people that did not have health insurance that will be covered. Yes, there is much more we can do, and there are probably going to be problems identified with the law that's in place now as we move forward. I think most people see that there's going to be a need to make changes as we move forward with some of the mandates and with some of the packages that are going to be covering people. So I think it is a continued work in progress. I think we've made tremendous progress in this area, and I would love to advocate with our leaders in Congress, especially Congressman Capuano, to move the United States forward so that we can have a universal coverage plan for everyone in our country. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. I do concur, and I have said for a long time that we need a single-payer universal health care program in this country. This new legislation and this new healthcare reform in Massachusetts did do some good things. But what it did is it took about 5% of the uninsured and just kind of add them to the ranks of the insured. 95% are in and around that area, had insurance and have insurance in Massachusetts. The problem that I find that people have is the affordability portion of it. And as long as we're going to be using the system that we're in, which is private insurance, and having employers maybe come up with 50% or, having these individual mandates on people that really can't afford these mandates, even if they're under the 300% poverty level, we're still going to have problems. Our healthcare budget, and I know working at a local level, is our biggest line item in our budget, providing healthcare costs to our city employees. And when you've got costs spiraling 10, 15, in some years 20%, that doesn't really say that we're in a system that's working. That's an unsustainable system. And I believe the only way out of it, and Anthony had alluded to it, is to really press our federal delegation, Congressman Capuano, Congressman Markey, Congressman Frank, Congressman, right across the board, all of our congressmen and our state senators, to really push for universal health care, because as Barbara had alluded to, there is a great deal of administrative costs in the system that we currently have. So I believe the way out of that, and the most fairest way to all of us as residents of this country, the fairest way is to implement a universal single-payer healthcare system so that all of us get the care we need, irregardless of our individual circumstances. Thank you.
Shine counsels seniors on the maze of insurance and prescription programs available in the state. There are only 16 paid Shine employees statewide, and 9 of those are part-time workers. The complexity of the new Medicare prescription program is placing overwhelming demands on the staff and volunteers, making it impossible to serve all of the seniors who need counseling. If you were elected to the state senate, would you be a proponent for Shine funding?
Thank you for that question. Absolutely, that number is staggering to me, that we have so few people that this state is committed to funding a position for with something so important to seniors. Senior citizens, especially today, with the way that Medicare is, with Medicare Part D, prescription advantage, there's so many things out there that people are still very confused about and really have nowhere else to go other than to try to seek these answers out themselves. And I know Shine does a terrific job with what they have, but it really, to say there's 16 people trying to help out in the state of Massachusetts is just, it's unrealistic. Would I support increased funding? Absolutely. We have an aging population here, not just in Massachusetts, but in our country. The number of residents here, age 65 and over, is going to double by the year 2020. And it's just unrealistic to think that everybody is going to know where to go and who to talk to if we're going to have 16 people employed to help people through this. I do want to say this. I know Blue Cross Blue Shield has been very, very good, and I've been able to guide many of our seniors in our community to them for assistance, and they've had great assistance. And I'll give you that number, which is 617-246-5000. And they really are very, very helpful in their own way to help people, certainly with medical questions, or where should they go for assistance regarding their medical care coverage, or even helping answer questions about long-term care. So it's definitely a program that I believe is underfunded, and should I be elected to the state senate, I would absolutely take up that cause to increase that significantly, because there's got to be a commitment. You can't have 16 people serving the needs of our entire state of senior citizens. It's not a realistic number, and I would certainly be there to fight for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, I would support increasing funding for that as well, and we should also pass the Medicare safety net legislation as well. We need to do more. We want to do more, and I think that's why when we talk about the last question, it's so important that Massachusetts have a balance of economic development to bring new jobs here and revenue enhancement measures to close corporate tax loopholes so we can raise the revenue necessary to pay for these programs that we want to have and we want to provide for people, because these are basic needs that we have to move forward with, and we need the money to do that. That's why I'm the lead sponsor to legislation to close the telecommunications tax loophole. There's no reason why telecommunications companies should not pay their fair share of property taxes like you and I and a lot of other families do. And by doing that, we can increase the revenue necessary to pay for programs like SHINE.
The state legislature has seen fit to fund home care, particularly for the senior citizens. The problem is that 75% of the money that they have funded for home care goes to the nursing homes. And the problem is that 3/4 of the senior citizens would rather stay in their own home and get home care there. So we're not asking for a lot. All we're asking is that they change the ratio from 75% to home care, nursing homes, and 25% for having it in their homes, to 50-50. We want everything 50-50. 50% for nursing homes and 50% to take care of senior citizens in their own home. And we would like to know just how you think about that.
Thank you very much. You know, it's much cheaper and more efficient to allow for people to stay in their homes longer than they are right now. And so I agree with you, spending more money on home care. It's something that we ought to do to allow for people who have spent a greater part of their lives in their homes, to give them that opportunity to stay there. And we should make more progress in that area, and I do support getting down to the 50-50 split as you suggest. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely, we need more funding for home health care because people do want to stay in their homes. I don't think most people like the idea of having to go to a nursing home. But I would prefer to look to create new revenue streams so that people that absolutely need nursing homes will be able to have that funding and have that access. I would like to see, again, these corporate tax loopholes closed that can generate up to $250 million for the state of Massachusetts, and then direct those funds into home health care, because, you know, people ought to be able to stay in their homes and not forced into a nursing home. What I wouldn't want to see is have to make that decision, you know, either or. I'd like to be able to say, look, for people that need nursing home coverage, they can have it, and we're going to be committed to funding that. But for those people that want to stay in their own homes, I would like to commit a definite targeted revenue stream that can help people stay in their homes. I think that's what people deserve, that's what people want, and I would certainly support those efforts to earmark those funds so they can't be spent anywhere else. They would be targeted just on those services. Thank you.
I have two questions. One, the prescription advantage helps cover Medicare problem. And Medicare is limited, as you know, as far as the limited time is concerned. Now, we need a prescription subsidy, and the program for the seniors are limited. Now, they're limited to two months. The year enrollment period, if you are elected to the state senate, would you support the prescription advantage a year-long commitment?
I can't understand why they set it up that way to begin with. It should be an open enrollment program, absolutely. When you're talking about something as important as prescription drugs, how can you limit or how can you penalize somebody for not signing up at one time or another? We're talking about taking care of our own people here, and that, to me, there's nothing more important than that. You know, people rely on their prescription drugs, and I believe we're putting them in danger by not allowing them an open enrollment period. So I would absolutely support an open enrollment period. It's unfair in its current status, and that's something that ought to be addressed
You know, I understand why Dan asked why we have a cap on enrollment. You know, a few years back, Governor Romney came in and zeroed out the program, and we were in the worst fiscal disrepair that our state has seen, losing over $2 billion in revenue and over 200,000 jobs. He came in and zeroed out the program. The legislature said, we're not going to have any part of that, and we funded it at $96 million with a smaller enrollment period in order to be able to provide prescriptions for seniors. We are in a little bit of a better position fiscally today than we were 4 years ago. So yes, we should expand the enrollment period and get back to the days when it was open enrollment for a year-long process. We should do that now that we're in the position to do so fiscally.
Okay. The second question. Sometimes when the seniors refill their prescription, they are asked to pay for more because of the breakdown in the pricing system. Last year, when this happened, seniors were able to receive an emergency 30-day refill supply of the prescription. Even though the prescription to allow the necessary correction, 150 seniors per day approximately are affected and use this benefit. Now, this program was not renewed in 2007. If elected to the state Senate, would you support a prescription drug emergency supply?
I guess I could go back to the answer to the last question. I think that there's nothing more important than to allow our senior citizens to sustain their quality of life by having the prescription drugs that they need. And so I would absolutely support that legislation that would allow for that emergency supply that would have to be created through no fault of your own, but just because of maybe some blip in the system or whatever, should not have any impact on your quality of life or prescriptions that you are required to take to keep that same quality of life. So, I would also like to say that, you know, while Governor Romney, you know, made those cuts, I believe it has to come down to a matter of priorities. There's an awful lot that I know is in the municipal budget, state budget, but I think it's a very slippery slope and a dangerous precedent to set when you start talking about taking away prescription drug rights and benefits to senior citizens. So that's something that I would never be on the table for me as your state senator.
Thank you. And yes, I believe you're referring to two pieces of legislation, Bob Correa and Mark McTigney. I think there was a hearing last week on it. I believe I'm a co-sponsor of Bob Correa's legislation, and I would support that.
Currently, many corporations use accounting tricks to make it appear that they are earning profits outside of Massachusetts, so they do not have to pay their fair share of state taxes. In 1968, corporate taxes made up 16% of state revenue. Today, it is down to 5% of the state revenue. Many legislators claim that these tax breaks are given in order to keep jobs in Massachusetts. The reality is that there are only 3 other states that give more tax breaks to corporations than the Commonwealth. If elected to the state Senate, would you support a fair tax system that would generate revenue that would fund vital senior programs?
Thank you. In short, the answer is yes. 40 states have higher tax rates for businesses than the state of Massachusetts. So the argument that we're going to lose jobs, we're going to lose companies because of our tax rate just doesn't hold water. Corporations should be treated no differently than the small business owner or the individual taxpayer. We're losing, because of their current structure, the way they can report their profits, about $250 million a year, and that number escalates over time. to about $500 million a year in the very, very near future. That's money that could come directly back into programs, whether it's for senior housing, whether it's for property tax relief, whether it's for prescription coverage. All these things that we've talked about here today is money I believe can be found by closing these corporate tax loopholes. If you have a company, and one example that really sticks with me is if you have a company, this particular company happened to work on the Big Dig, went up to New Hampshire, bought their equipment for tens of millions of dollars, brought it back here to Massachusetts, made hundreds of millions of dollars on the Big Dig, didn't pay any sales tax, and didn't pay any excise tax. On the flip side, if you were to go to New Hampshire and you were to buy a vehicle and you came back to Massachusetts, they would hit you up for sales tax and they would be sure to hit you up for excise tax. Now there's just something really unfair about a system that allows big companies making big profits and having individuals like us that get hit in the wallet every time it seems we do anything. These corporations, we've got a large population here in the state of Massachusetts. There's plenty of money to be made here in Massachusetts, and I don't believe by closing these corporate tax loopholes so that money can streamline back into our communities is going to drive business out of our state. I really, truly don't believe that. And so I am 100% in favor and would work diligently toward closing these corporate tax loopholes because it's the right thing. And again, it's something that we're all going to benefit from. And these corporations, as I say, are not going to leave. They're still going to be hiring people. People will still be employed. It's just that there'll be a little less profit at the top for these CEOs that are walking away with hundreds of millions of dollars in some cases. And it's time to start taking care of our own people. Thank you.
Yes, I support the closure of corporate tax loopholes. And as I mentioned in my earlier remarks, that's why I sponsored the act relative to telecommunications companies. You know, back in 1915, when no one had telephone service in their homes, they were given a tax incentive in order to provide people in their homes with telephone service. That's a long time ago. And now as we're paying surge in property taxes in our homes, the telecommunications company still is not paying any property taxes at all. It's about fairness. And you know, the corporate strategy is to scare people into thinking that, well, now your rates are going to go up. Or we're not going to make investments into broadband so people can have high-speed internet and the like. That's not true. Most other states tax their telecommunications companies, their property, and they have actually better rates than we have, and they in turn have actually better infrastructure as well. So yes, we need to close those loopholes. Telecommunications companies are leaving $80 million just on their own off the table for cities and towns here in Massachusetts, $2.6 million for Cambridge. We need to close that. It's about fairness, and I support them.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Councillor Rizzo, instead Representative Petruccelli, Anthony, and Dan. I want to thank you very much for sharing your opinions with us. And now we'd like one more thing. Anthony Petruccelli, to please give us your closing remarks. And then Mr. Rizzo.
Thank you very much. Villa, thank you for being a wonderful host, and thank you for all the questions. And I want to also thank Dan for having a wonderful exchange of ideas over the past almost 10 weeks, is it, Dan? We've both run very positive campaigns and tried to advocate for our message. You've done it like a professional. I want to thank you for that. This is a very important election. I believe that the experience I've established at the municipal level and working for Mayor Menino a few years before I ran for office, as well as my 8 years in the legislature, I believe that I have a record of getting results at matters that are important to the district that I've represented. and I want to continue to do so and make progress on issues of much more importance to this much larger district. I feel like I have that experience, and I feel like I've established that record of getting results, and I want to continue to do so for you as your senator. So on May 29th, I ask that you consider me for your vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anthony. And the feeling is mutual. It's trying to run a senatorial campaign in 10 weeks is very, very daunting. But I know both of us have done our best, and I know on May 29th we're going to put it in the hands of the voters, and hopefully, one of us will come out a winner. I suppose that's bound to happen, isn't it? I have enjoyed this campaign, really. I've got to meet so many people, and even though it has only been 10 weeks, it's been a great experience. And when I talk about experience, it brings to mind my experience. And while Anthony, has experience in the legislature, and has been able to do a lot of good things, I believe that my experience on the city council has allowed me to do some things, and really bringing that experience to the state level, I think is going to be a real advantage, and I really believe it's going to be an advantage to the people of this district, because again, I'm taking what I've learned at the local level, knowing what we need as a community, knowing what is important to all of our residents, and bringing that to the state legislature. And isn't that what we're doing when we elect a state representative, when we elect a state senator? We want somebody to bring our concerns before the bodies that can actually make these decisions and actually provide funding for things that are important to us. I believe that during my 8 years in office, I've been able to demonstrate that. I believe that my life experience and owning and operating my own business for the last 21 years, I think would be extremely beneficial to the residents of this district, because again, it's a perspective that I've had that, again, it's experience that you just can't get without doing. And I've been able to do it, and I'd like to do the job for you in the state Senate as your state senator. And one final thing is that if I am fortunate enough to be elected, I will not be a stranger. I would like to come back to forums like this and talk to you, because that is the way that I operate. I'm a grassroots type person. I like talking to people. The exchange of ideas is how we ultimately get those ideas up to the decision makers, which is going to be my job. So again, the ideas aren't all created in the legislature. Many of the ideas are created from you people sitting right here. We need to know what you need and then act accordingly on that. So if I am fortunate enough to be elected, I hope I will be invited back to talk with all of you. And I look forward to that. And May 29th, regardless who you're going out to vote for, I hope all of you, and I'm sure all of you will, go out and take the time to vote on May 29th. It's a very important election. You're choosing your next state senator, and I'm hoping that I'll be your choice on that day. Thank you very much.
We hope our program will help you make a more informed decision in the upcoming election. Join us next month when we'll cover the Somerville Cambridge Elder Services Elder Fair on June 27th. Thank you.